On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing housing inventory, the NAHB Homebuilder survey, and housing starts. Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024. I am Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. Welcome into today's hot sheet. Let me know in the live chat which market you are tuning in from. I see Colorado Springs, East Texas, as well as Charlotte, North Carolina, Sarasota, all in the house. So good morning. Welcome into the week starting of August 19th. Yes, that's the other side of August 17th for those of you that are real estate agents. I hope you took a breath this weekend. Everything seems to be fine. Spoke to a lot of agents, even across the country here over the weekend and even into this morning as we start this Monday. And I don't hear any sky is falling. In fact, I find agents saying, hey, these conversations, a lot of people saw headlines. There were some insane headlines over the weekend too. Mainstream media all ran with them. But a lot of folks were saying, hey, had conversations, had people bring it up to me. I personally had somebody bring it up to me on the golf course this weekend, not in real estate, just, hey, I see this in the headlines. Tell me, hey, what's going on here? And, the response is, well, help me understand what you've read, right? And making sure that, they're not getting kind of steered in a certain direction. Mainstream media is steering people in a lot of misinformation directions and just walking through it. If you need a resource, there's 5 common questions. We put that on nowbam.com. If you need a resource and the answers of how to respond to those questions, that's on nowbam.com. So people are going to ask the questions, but I'm hearing from agents across the country that they want to work, that their clients are saying, hey, they want to work with them. Sky's not falling. People are feeling good. So here we go. We're on the other side of this thing now and not really seeing many issues for the agents of change, the agents that are diving into this type of information so that they can close the knowledge gap here between professionals just like you and consumers. All right. To be a professional, we need to understand the macro just as well as we understand our micro. So that's why we look at inventory every single week that we kick off the hot sheet. Of course, this is the only show that goes live on the internet every single Monday through Thursday. That gives you a 24-hour look back on everything in the housing market. So first, we'll kick off, as we always do on Mondays, with inventory. Okay, inventory, we're looking to break that 700,000 active inventory number. And boy, according to Altos Research, are we very close to doing that. Altos Research right now, for the week ending August 16th, has us at 698,000 plus. The inventory for the week grew by 5,700. It's a positive gain. Last year, of course, we were still under 500,000 at this point. Of course, right now we're 41% more than last year's number, and 41% more not only than last year, but significantly more than at any point in 21, 22, and even 2020, this time of year was on a decline. If we do look at, some more normal markets like 2019 was relatively flat. Once we got to mid-August, if you look at August, we kind of went in 2019 from 969, but then dropped to 956, then back to 963, then 962. We're into September now, 963 in September, 957 in September. So very flat at this point, and really all of summer in 2019 was flat. You can go back to July and see 957,000. So you had from like end of June till the beginning of October, where this was really flat, hovering around the 960,000 mark. If you look at where we're at from June, we've been on a straight incline on active inventory, right? So beginning of June, we were at 604,000. At the end of June, we were at 634,000. Remember, we sit here today at 698,000 plus on active inventory. So active inventory is heading in the right direction right now. Why do I think 700,000 plus is a important number? If we look at where we started 2020 was a normal year in January and February. Of course, everything in our lives got pretty much abnormal after that point. But we started January at 900, or I'm sorry, at 763,000. Okay, so to Jerome Powell's point, who Jerome Powell is going to have a big week. He's going out to Jackson Hole, the FOMC. Gets to spend some time at their annual retreat in Jackson Hole. We'll have more on that later in the week. It's a big week as it concerns the Fed and what their tone is going to be here on Friday when Jerome Powell speaks from Jackson Hole. How nice it must be. But Jerome Powell's point about housing when he's asked these questions, particularly in the press conference, is that in 2020, we had really low inventory. And this inventory was going, no matter what happened, this inventory situation was going to take time to correct itself. Okay. And so we were coming into 2020 saying this is going to be a good real estate year. Normal, sellers had the advantage, but it wasn't too out of balance. And that was only starting the year at 763,000. So we may get around that number. I'm expecting November and December for properties to come off the market, the seasonality that always happens around the holidays. But we're going to cross next week over 700,000. And we're getting close to a starting point where we're in the range of 2019, 2020 starting point. We'll see how next spring plays out. A lot of that's going to have to do with what happens with rates and all of that. But just to get back closer to those numbers, especially considering where our new listing data has been coming in, is a positive thing for the market. Okay, let's see here. Bobby, I think we are officially going to need to order a new cord, or I can see if I have one, because this happens now every single show, and it is absolutely infuriating. Hang with me here if you're watching. I apologize if you're listening. Not a big disturbance for you, but for those watching, there we go. Here is the new listing data. 67,000 for the week on new listings. That matches 2022's week. 59,000 last year. So we're above last year's number, but last year, remember, was at the all-time low. So staying pretty consistent there right now with 22. Obviously, we saw 22 in the last few months be above this year's 24 mark, but we've maintained really throughout the year above 2023. Nothing to throw a party about. Last year was the lowest level ever. Price cut percentage right now, according to Altos Research, coming in at 39.4%. That's higher than each of the last 2 years, 36 and 39% respectively. The last 2 years in 23 and 22. Last year again, 22, when the interest rates were going up, this number continued to rise, peaking out above 43% in November. Last year's peak was right where we're at right now, just over 39%. So we'll see if this number flattens out from here, or like it has the last few weeks, or if this number has a pop going into the later half of the year as some of the serious sellers get a little antsy as we get closer to November, and then certainly the holiday season when you typically would see homes potentially coming off the market if they need to stay on the market and they're not getting traffic. Price cut obviously is going to come into the conversation, or at least the consideration around strategy for those sellers. Weekly pending sales are at 365,000. That's dead even with last year. Okay, so 365,000 on pending sales, 365,681, 365,097 last year. So we're, about 600, 500 and change homes more under contract, pending, in escrow, whatever you call it, in the country right now. So we're not seeing, despite the going from high 400,000s on active inventory to now about to cross 700,000 on active inventory, we are not seeing any more pending sales in the market across the country right now than we did last year. In 22, at this time, we had 408,000 pending sales. So this is, my apologies there. Not sure what's going on with the screen there. This issue with the demand is what's keeping, or I'm sorry, the affordability issue is what's keeping the demand low and what's keeping the overall existing home sales down around that 4 million mark. Okay. Here's another way to look at this on mortgage application data. We've got less demand on mortgage applications than we have each of the last 2 years. And that's been at every point here for the year. Okay. A lot of stuff coming out this week. Again, I mentioned Jackson Hole event, which happens every single year. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he'll give his speech on Friday, I believe. The expectation, by the way, is that he will lay the groundwork during this Jackson Hole retreat, this conference, where you have other central banking members from other countries, even taking a part in this. So it's interesting. You get a variety of, opinions and variety of different, markets and all of that. The consensus is that he is going to, on Friday, announce that, there is going to be a rate cut on in September. The debate is it going to be a half a point, which was the favorite just a week ago, or is it going to be a quarter point, which is now the favorite? If we look at the CME Group, still 100% chance that there's going to be a rate cut easing in September, 75% chance that it's a quarter point, 25% chance that it's a half point. I know we had somebody say here in the hot sheet in the comments that wasn't going to happen. It still looks like that is going to be the case. Everybody expects it to be the case. It's just a matter of, is he going to lay the groundwork for a half a point or a quarter point? So that's going to happen this week. There's also a huge, number coming out on Wednesday. I found this tweet very interesting. Chamath Palihapitiya is he's a billionaire, former Facebook, OG there, got into Facebook early. He's an investor, and he's part of the All In podcast. Anyways, he doesn't tweet things that he doesn't, do some research on. Okay. This retweet, quote tweet from Zero Hedge is interesting to me. He says, Chamath puts his quote on there, "Tell me we're in a recession without telling me we're in a recession." If this is true, this Bureau of Labor Statistics report that's going to come out on Wednesday. So we've talked about a lot of the revisions that have come out have actually shown a weaker economy than what we're hearing on the original number. So we get original GDP in quarter one, that gets revised down. We get a GDP that was really strong in quarter two. Expectations are that's going to be revised down. Now, Zero Hedge is saying on Wednesday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will downward revise jobs for the April 23 through March 24 period by up to 1 million. The commenter recently here on the hot sheet said, we're not going to see a rate cut because the economy is too strong. This would completely dispel that. There have been, strong economic original reports throughout the first 6 months, but like we've seen throughout the first half of the year, a lot of those get downward revised after the fact. This would be the most significant and largest downward revision we've seen all year, because it means that all the beats recorded in the past year for labor will have actually been misses, and that the U.S. job market is in far worse shape than the current administration would admit. If you have a million difference there on jobs, that's going to be an alarm bell for the FOMC. I would expect, if this is true on Wednesday, you'll get that before Jackson Hole kicks off. I think this is like a Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday thing. Powell speaking on Friday. Then I think he starts leaning heavily into a half a point cut. because he has the dual mandate, get inflation down to 2%, 2.9 coming in last week, lowest level since 2021, of course. But the other mandate is to maximize employment. This would mean that, okay, wow, employment's not as in strong of a position as we've been being told. That would be, not something that the FOMC wants to deal with. They're going to have to cut very quickly at the next meeting, probably half a point. If that were to be the case, it means the economy is not that strong. It means that the incumbent for November is going to have, less of a feather in the cap there as it comes to the economy to run off of. There's a lot of things at play here. A lot of the comments can get political on a post like this. Obviously, people are saying, yeah, we're not going to hear the real numbers until November and all this kind of stuff. Zero Hedge followed up their tweet. Official job estimates versus early benchmark. California already revising. Anyways, you get this kind of stuff here. After November, the recession will be backdated. I'm curious as to where it backdates to. That is one side of the belief that, hey, we're getting some numbers that aren't as good as the reality sits. We're going to find some of this stuff out this week. Wednesday, Bureau of Labor Statistics. We'll see what the numbers actually are. This is, I found it was interesting because Chamath is somebody who doesn't just quote tweet stuff without doing research and without having really looked at the data. He happens to be on the side. I listened to the pod there that we're already in a beginning of a recession. There's a lot. Goldman Sachs just downgraded chances of recession to 20%. I think it was up over 30%. So there's, with last week's good news, there's others that are saying, no, I don't think we're heading into recession necessarily. I've never said this on Knowledge Brokers podcast on Friday. I don't think I ever remember a time when for 2 years you're talking about, are we in recession? Are we going into recession? It's actually getting quite exhausting. Builders are a little bit exhausted with this current market. Switching over to some building reports that we have here today. Builder confidence moves lower. Okay, so they're starting to get worn out with this market. They're waiting for these rate cuts. The lack of affordability and buyer hesitation stemming from elevated interest rates and high home prices contributed a decline in builder sentiment in August. In fact, I think to me, it has a lot to do with how much inventory. We're going to get into building starts here in just a minute. But if you look at the NAHB, National Association Homebuilder Wells Fargo Housing Market Index, you see that builders are now down to confidence level of 39 in August. It's down 2 points from a revised reading of 41, a downwardly revised reading of 41 in July. Almost every reading that you see when it's revised on all economic points, this is the point I keep making, continues to be downwardly revised. You get good numbers up front for whatever reason. And then when you actually go back and look at them, they're downwardly revised, which does speak to a weaker economy than I think what appears on the face. Okay, so NAHB released this today. Oh, no, this was released on Friday, I believe. It's the lowest reading for builders since December 2023. Almost 3/4 of responses to the August HMI were collected during the first week of the month when interest rates were 6.73. Of course, they're lower today. So maybe as we look at the next reading here in a month, we'll get a little bit of an increase. Of course, you want to see this number over 50. Being at 39 or 41 last month, downwardly revised. Those aren't great numbers. So you would want to see this over 50. Some other interesting points here. And listen, all this data is available for you inside of BAMX, as well as the hot sheet show notes, as well as all of the slides from today. You get into BAMX by using code HOT to get your discount there. Here's some other components in the August, all remaining below the key threshold of 50. Present sales conditions fell to 44. That's down from 46. Expected sales in the next 6 months did increase 1 point to 49, still below that 50 mark. And then traffic of prospective buyers declined to 2 points to 25. I was out over the weekend at a little social setting, social club environment. And I heard the table next to me talking about, oh my, because I'm down here in I'm not in Connecticut. I'm down in South Florida now here for at least the Labor Day weekend. And I'm hearing what just over at the table. They're talking, my ears perk up because they're talking builders, Lennar, Pulte, all the big national home builders are down here, those players. And people are just having a conversation. Oh my gosh, you see, they're going to be offering this. They're buying down this rate. So-and-so builders is doing this type of an offer. Interesting with everything that's going on, obviously, with incentives and do incentives work and all of that kind of conversation. But they're noticing, they're buying down rates. And what are they all doing? They're actively trying to increase traffic in a time of year down here, South Florida, Naples in particular, where you've got the least amount of, visitors and people who are thinking about moving down here. In fact, you have some of the people that stay down here even more than 6 months that are not down here right now. It's why it's one of my favorite times to be here, because they can get into any restaurant. They've all got great deals, all of that kind of stuff. But you've got people that are noticing, these builders are doing things, incentivizing a market to increase traffic. Why? Because homes just aren't selling like they were a couple of years ago. Inventory isn't at the scarcity that it was a couple of years ago. It's of abundance, particularly here, and growing seemingly every day. The August survey also revealed that builders are increasingly cutting prices to bolster home sales. They wouldn't be cutting prices in an environment where you'd have high demand. Okay, they're cutting prices to get traffic in there, to get sales done at a faster rate, particularly with how much inventory is still coming online. Remember, in a market where you've got a lot of builders, you also have existing home sales rising. Bridget says locking in at 4.5 with a national builder. Laura says, remember when they didn't even throw in a refrigerator? My new house, they wouldn't throw a refrigerator in. They didn't throw a lot of things in. And, maybe now you could negotiate those refrigerators. Okay. All right. So there's the confidence score. Builders are least confident level that they've been here in quite some time. 39 on the scale. Anything over 50 would be a better number for them to look at. All right. Let's take a look at monthly new residential construction numbers here. The U.S. Census Bureau and U.S. Department of Housing announced these numbers. And we've got building permits coming at 1.396, housing starts coming in at 1.238 million, housing completions coming in at 1.529. Okay. Completions, you'll see starts and permits all trending down. This is the seasonally adjusted annual rate. Permits, starts trending down, inventory is trending up, competition for builders trending up. That makes sense. Completion, surprisingly, also trending down. Okay. Privately owned housing units authorized by building permits are in July. We're at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of the 1.396, 4% below the revised June rate of 1.454 million, 7% below the July 23 rate of 1.50 million. So building permits, I have been calling this for months. I expect building permits to decline. You have existing active inventory going up. You also have pending sales, the same rate as last year, a near floor for a market. If you factor in population growth, the lowest level of pending home sales and existing home sales on top of that. So you've got an affordability issue. You've got a buyer who's holding back. You've got a seller who maybe want to buy, but sitting more on the sidelines. And so I expect permits to go down, even when you look at long-term issues, like we mentioned before, Jerome Powell talking about long-term issues in inventory. Even when you factor in long-term issues, builders are like, I can't get too ahead of my skis here and build too much inventory if we're going to have an elevated interest rate for the next year, year and a half, 2 years. Fannie Mae believes we're going to be in the sixes for quite some time. So builders don't want to be left holding that kind of a bag. Housing starts, seasonally adjusted rate at the 1.238 million mentioned. That's 6.8% below June's revised level of 1.32, 16% below the July rate. So housing starts, they've slowed way down on housing starts compared to where we were last year and even last month. Housing completions now 9.8% below June. It is 13.8% above last year's rate when you look at completions. And listen, builders want to get these homes completed. Of course, they're incentivized. If they're in the middle of a project, get it completed. Let's see if we can get a buyer into these deals, or if it's under contract, even better, let's get those things rocking and rolling so that they're not sitting on the balance sheet. New housing starts, units of total starts, and then single family starts. You've got total versus single family. Single family even on a sharper decline than total starts. So starts and permits continue to be on a decline as I expected anyway. Some expected those numbers, and we look at the Fannie Mae projections, some of these other projections over the next year and a half to be going up. I'm not so sure about that. I think short term makes a lot of sense for these numbers to go down. We'll see where the rate goes. If the rate moves down, I expect them to ramp back up. Okay. 10-year right now today is down, coming in at 3.884. We'll see. Obviously, that jobs information on Wednesday could be the biggest mover on the 10-year. If you get it downwardly revised by 1 million, which remains to be seen, obviously, you'll see this drop, which means the 30-year would drop. Right now, the 30-year is coming at 6.56. That's where it ended the week on Mortgage News Daily survey. The 30-year fixed weekly ticked up just a bit to 6.49. So still just kind of hanging around that 6.5 mark on the 30-year fix. Again, we looked at the CME Group, still a 75% chance that it's a quarter point cut. 25% chance it's a half point, but they're still saying 100% chance that they will ease the rate as the FOMC meeting takes shape in about a month from now. We'll hear from Jerome Powell on Friday from Jackson Hole. Obviously, we'll break all of that down. We invited Jerome Powell to this, but he declined our invite. But we do have a host of great speakers. BAM Mania Circa Las Vegas happening October 18th. You could still have time to get general admission tickets or VIP. VIP gives you the experience from the 17th and the 18th. VIP tickets will move first and sell out first, and then we'll be just left with general admission tickets. BAM X members, you get 25% off of today's lowest price by using your personal code. If you're a BAM X member, forgot your code, just email Jill at nowbam.com. She'll get you straightened out there. But BAM X members, 25% off your BAM Mania tickets. You can still get into BAM X at a discount using code HOT. Okay, use code HOT today to get into BAM X, get access to all of our courses, your discounts to events like BAM Mania. Make sure you book BAM Mania sooner than later so you don't get left out. October 17th and 18th, Circa Las Vegas, brand new venue. Excited to be there with all of you, agents of change who are leading us forward in this changing housing market and changing real estate industry. Hope everybody has a great start to the week and is enjoying their Monday morning so far. I will be back with you here tomorrow, 9:30 on the East, 6:30 on the West. Of course, until then, toodaloo.